Throat Wobbler Mangrove.
Luxury yacht. Okay, a couple of disclaimers before we begin. Yesterday we went all the way to London so I could read a book of mine in a London bookshop, and we were also following a book around called A Curious Guide to London, and those two videos will be on next week. Now I've got endometriosis, etc., and I'm in a lot of pain, so there's not going to be any editing on this video because we did so much yesterday. And also we're at my mum's and she's a spiritualist, so if you see any kind of spiritualist
Paraphernalia, regalia,
angel type stuff, that's my mum's, it's not mine. And as Weaven and I, aka Lo-Fi Guy, aka Steve, have a podcast talking about weird art called Bizarre, I thought I'd get him on to help me because I'm going to struggle doing a video by myself today. I wanted to talk about, we often discuss what is art, what can be classed as art. If you just say that something is art, does that make it so? And I was wondering if we could do the same for books, because I found a select few online and they are experimental and they kind of not go against what people often think of when they say books, but they're a kind of different sort of thing. So if I just read these out, there's Hopscotch by Julio Cortázar, and apparently it has whole chapters that you can choose to skip. It can be read in any order and it tells a different story every time. Someone online said that it was like the book form of immersive theatre. Incidentally, if you want to watch a film that's like immersive theatre, watch The Russian Ark. It's amazing, it's beautiful, it's fascinating.
I've not seen that.
Yeah, that's really good. So there's that. House of Leaves, which I have read, by Mark Danielewski. It's a really unusual way of telling stories. My throat's going dry. Sometimes there's only one word per page. Sometimes the pages are different to the others. I read the ebook version, so I feel like I lost a lot of what people say when they read the paperback, but there's pages that I think are different sizes, and the story is very kind of, it reminds me of a Lynch film in how sort of cyclical it is. Like the time doesn't seem to make much of a difference in it. Like someone discusses with one of the characters the book that you're actually reading, and in that they're also discussing the book, and there's other bits which kind of seem to satirise academic writing. It sort of makes fun of how much you can get immersed into the tiny things in academic writing, like mentioning other books and essays that have apparently been written about something that's completely inconsequential to the story. I really recommend it, it's really good, House of Leaves. Zach's Haunted House by Dennis Cooper is made entirely of GIFs. You can download it for free off the internet, and when I had a look through, I was fascinated. Now I personally didn't think that the story was coherent. I didn't think it particularly told an entire story, but I was really interested in the idea, and I'm really interested to see if someone in the future can actually make a coherent story using this idea, if it's possible. There's Invention of Hugo Cabret by Brian Selznick. Apparently it is part novel, part picture book, part graphic novel and part flip book. And it's the first novel to win the Caldecott Medal, which is for picture books only, but it's supposed to be a novel, you know, it's classed as a novel. John Dies at the End, I think, is that by Jason Wong, I can't remember, I forgot to put the name. I saw the film, but most people say the film's not very good, the book's really good. I actually quite liked the film. I don't know if that makes me some sort of heathen, but I haven't read it, so maybe that's why. But that started as a web series. He wrote pieces of it and put it on the internet, and then at some point a publisher was interested, it was tidied up and made into a proper sort of coherent book. So yeah, that started kind of how a lot of things do now, which is it goes on the internet first in pieces. And there's also Silence Once Begun by Jessie Ball, which is a story about murders. There's a false confession, but the man in prison won't speak. It's made up of interviews, photographs and other police type documents. Out of those, I've read House of Leaves and Zach's Haunted House. Well, I say I've read Zach's Haunted House, I've seen it. But the others sound really interesting. But I wondered what you thought about the idea of...
Well, it's sort of conceptual
it's
writing.
Conceptual writing, experimental writing, which is, really important. It's important to sort of push not only what is expected, but also what you can get away with, and the idea.
You're kind of treading a fine line with that kind of thing. I mean, don't they say that a good way to write is to just start and let it flow and let it take direction, or are you being conceptual when you from the beginning when you write? I know that Leslie Thomas, the author, I think he said in an interview that he basically starts writing. That's basically how he does it. He just lets it flow.
There's two different schools of thought there. Basically, they're known as flying by the seat of the pants writers and planners, and I think generally the idea is that if you're a mix of the two, that's probably going to work best, because first of all, if you just fly by the seat of your pants, you can get sort of lost in a confusing mire. It does work for some people, but also it can become very meandery. But there's also you can also get too rigid. Like if you have a very specific plan and you do not deviate from it, that can probably get too rigid. So I think probably I'll try and do a mix of the two.
Yeah.
In mind.
So what? So you write and with something in mind, but you sort of loosely stick to that. But then you can expand on that. Too.
I kind of have a plan of this happens, that happens, that happens. But in between that, particularly with character development and so on, I kind of see where it goes.
Oh, that's interesting to know, actually.
Let me ask, in relation to the books that I was looking at, to you, what is a book?
I guess really, if you're talking about fiction, the thing is, you could ask 1,000 people and they'd all say something different, really.
I suppose with I've always thought that a book is something with words that tells a story, and you follow the story, you read the story, and that isn't untrue. But I feel like now, probably particularly with the internet, things are changing. Not that people haven't experimented in the past, because they have, of course, but like for example, if you look at what's it called, this Codex Seraphinianus, that is writing and it's pages and it's drawings, but it's not really telling a story, because the words are gibberish. Like, it's not in any language that anyone understands. It's not any world language. It's each word on the page is nonsense. And
so that's where the lines kind of are blurred between that and some kind of conceptual art piece, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's from, years ago. Like, I think maybe it was found in 1919. I'm not sure if it's older than that. We don't know. Not much is really known about it. But so obviously that is a book because it's got pages and words and drawings and so on. But it isn't really telling a story because it's like someone was like a chimp at a typewriter. They're just, or were they? Is it in code? We don't know. It might be a code. We aren't sure.
So,
yeah.
Wow, I'm finding out quite a few things here. When I think what appeals to me personally is something that's well written, that has a flow, and say Lord of the Rings. I mean, because I'm slightly dyslexic, it took me an age to read it because it's 3.
I'm impressed that you did actually, because I didn't finish Lord of the Rings.
My mum bought me the series, and I felt that I really had to read it, sort of thing. But I love the kind of the beautiful kind of simplicity and poetry of the writing. He had a great way with words, and I think there needs to be a connection between the author and the reader. Otherwise, it's not really good literature. But then again, I mean, what you're talking about is something that's completely left of
kind of off the wall.
Yeah. So again, with like Philip K. Dick, I can The Man in the High Castle, which was adapted, and you saw
I saw the first couple of series,
the Amazon series of that. Now, I actually really struggled with the book because it's kind of littered with points and kind of references, and it's kind of bogged down in a way, and it being kind of like an alternate reality based on alternate realities. There's ways of doing that, and I find that I just gave up halfway through.
Yeah.
Whereas something like Valis, which was one of his later novels, which is more kind of funny, whimsical, and kind of, it's almost more like Robert Anton Wilson or Hunter Thompson or something. It's a little bit. It's got that kind of comedy element.
I think you enjoy art with mischief.
Exactly.
The kind of thing that you're drawn to, I've noticed, is often got an element of mischievousness.
Yes, exactly, and that's what appeals to me.
Yeah.
Now, I could probably get a lot from the books that you're talking about, because there is an element of mischief. Mischievousness in the way that they're constructed and thought out and put together. It's kind of breaking the wall, and it's kind of challenging our concepts of what a book should be. But I think they're kind of treading a line there where it can pass over into self-indulgence, and that's where it loses me, I think. You have to relate to your audience in some capacity.
Do you think that a book made of GIFs is a book?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, that's true. That's kind of what I thought as well. I mean, there's some people online were like, oh, it's a really great idea, and some were like, well, that's not a book, but I guess maybe even now more than ever, with all the different technological ways we can experiment with things, it's good to kind of rethink old concepts, maybe. Do you agree? Like, a book traditionally was always, it's a leather bound thing that's on your shelf, and it's...
Oh yeah, that's... there's probably parallels in other fields of art, and say when photography came along.
Yeah.
You it's exactly the same deal. And now photography is an art, is seen. No one will challenge the idea that photography is an art form. So
yeah, I mean, if you look at vintage erotic photography, like in the Victorian era, when it first came out, I'm not sure exactly the year. Is it 1850s? I'm not sure.
it would have been
The women are very just sort of sat there, plonked there, legs open, whatever, no art to it. And yet in about 10 years after that, they're very like posing and creating art with their bodies for the camera. So
they're learning about the way shape and form works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where it does cross over.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if anything can be art, then I guess anything can be a book, or can it? I don't know. That's the question. Where would you draw the line? Is there a line?
Would say would an end. If you think about say an interactive website, could that be defined as a book?
Yeah, like Choose Your Own Adventures were just paperback books and so on, but now there are YouTube channels with Choose Your Own Adventure, which I want to do as a video at some point in the future, by the way, where you follow an adventure, but it's with videos. I mean, it's still someone narrating a story, but you pick between a couple of choices, which then take you to the next video. And then
exactly, like video games, many video games are like that.
So perhaps instead of hung up on the word book, we should sort of refocus and think more about it as a story. It's a story rather than
yeah, you're right.
A book in some levels with interactive stories and so on. If you
if it's a story, you can loosely define it as a book, really.
Yes. Loose definition, or you can sort of rethink how you can enjoy it. If someone reading it to you, that is an audio book. So
yeah,
why not?
Why not?
Exactly. Oh. Well, I am actually going to stop there because I've been in quite a lot of pain today. I'm very sorry, but that was, I think, quite an interesting chat.
I think it was, because that's opened up a few avenues for me creatively.
Definitely. I'm probably most interested in Invention of Hugo Cabret. I think the one that's part novel, part graphic novel, part picture book and so on, because it just sounds like a portal to a magic land to me, and I think I'm definitely going to need to get that one. It sounds really good.
Yay!
And the police report one sounds very interesting to me too. I like reading crime and that sort of thing, so it might add an extra element of realism to the story if it's laid out like crime reports.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I find that very intriguing.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you've read any of them, let me know what you thought, or if you've decided to read them because of this, still let me know what you thought. Okay, goodbye.
Bye bye.